Now, I know the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, is a very common thing, and I stick to that, but this is Call of Duty, so I have a right to limit myself to that. Except for Treyarch games, because Treyarch seems to do a lot better with Call of Duty than Infinity Ward. I'm not going to judge Sledgehammer games because, well, they're just new and starting out, so they wanted to play it safe, so I could get that. But this is Infinity Ward, so let's take a look at Infinite Warfare. When I'm looking at the game, I'm looking at all the sources and information. Like, first I go on Wikipedia, then I go for the references to see if this is true. Turns out it is true, just to get confirmation of this, so I don't go ahead and accidentally make a critical error there and talk about it, and there you have it. Um, I want you to really think about the story, the lore of Infinite Warfare's universe. Okay, let me explain. Infinite Warfare is set in the distant future after Earth has been stripped of its natural resources as a result of population growth and industrial expansion. So we're going with man is bad and we need to protect nature mentality again. Like, I get that, but we've seen this like a million times, and knowing Activision not really being creative nowadays, I don't expect a sudden twist to it, especially on Infinity War's front. The world, prompting the nations of the world to unite together and form the United Nations Space Command, Alliance, lines. I mean, like, I don't know where that came from. But this is entirely different from the United Nations Space Command of Halo. It's completely different. It's a political organization that handles matters related to trade, travel, land claims, and all efforts relating to human space colonization. The residents of Earth rely on colonies established elsewhere in the solar system in order to mine planets and asteroids for resources. The values of these outposts, however, attracts militant radicals who seek to control them, an action which could place the countries of Earth in a very unfavorable position. In response to the UNSA is defended by the Solar Associated Treaty Organization, SATO, a coordinated military structure that defends Earth, and UNSA. Sorry, I don't know why I'm saying that. Like they're completely different universes. Holdings. However, prior to the events of the game, a new hostile faction emerges, known as the Settlement Defense Force. Uh huh. Also known as the Insurrection at this point. I'm like, let's no longer pretend joking here. Let's be serious. Like, this is pretty much the Insurrection from Halo, which they even said, which consists of insurgents that broke away from the United Nations Space Command, pretty much, during a war of succession. Following years of troubled stalemate with the front, or the incursions, or the insurrection, relations have deteriorated to the point where the entire solar system is on the poise to the brink of war. But the events of the game, the insurrection, declares war on the UNSC and launches a surprise attack on some place, I can't pronounce it right, severely weakening Sato's forces on Earth. As the commander of the UNSC, yeah, I don't care anymore. I know what they're trying to say, but really, this is what I'm just getting the feeling of. Warship Retribution, Captain Nick Reese, voiced by Brian Bloom, a Tier 1 Special Operations pilot of the Special Combat Air Recon SCAR, is tasked to lead a crew to defeat the insurrection, as well as journey to outer space across other planets and using solar-based fighter craft, referred to as jackals, to stop the insurrection from taking over the entire solar system. Okay, that's just the story. Okay. Does anyone get a very familiar? This is obviously Halo's Insurrection. Yeah, yeah, I did too. Um, like really, like it was bad enough when Ghost recycled cutscenes and just made a few alterations to make it say it's completely different, and then the hyping up of the dog that didn't really work out so well. This whole UNSA, as I'm calling it, the UNSC because that's what it is at this point, and the Settlement Defense Front is, well, the insurrection from Halo. Um, like there's a like the only difference here is that in Halo's universe, the insurrection and the UNSC never fully declared war on each other. That's what was said. It was an undeclared war, civil war. they still fought, and there's still war resurgence after the Cuban Covenant War, and they had a legitimate reason why they felt the way they did against the UNSC, because they felt like, oh, well, we're our colonies, they're from Earth, so we have a right to be independent. So they have a right to feel independent about it. So they have a feeling like, well, we can handle things on our own. Like, we don't need you, Earth Government, United Earth Government, and UNSC. We can handle things on our own. And this is where a huge problem lies. Like, you understood why the insurrection rebelled against the UNSC. I don't like you didn't agree with their violent methods, but you understood. But at the same time, in Call of Duty's universe, there's just a spontaneous militant force that is against them during a war of succession because reasons? We don't need reasons. We're Activision. We lack creativity. Except for Destiny. We have an impressive lore, but we're not going to use that. Like I'll get to Destiny in a future video, maybe with one of my friends, hopefully. Um, and when I was hearing all this hype about Infinite Warfare, what it was going to be about, when I heard it was going to take place in space, and I was, so basically, you're becoming Halo, except without the aliens, without the Covenant. And let's see, whereas Halo had characters you can identify with on both sides, and yet on one side you had enemies that you just want to hate, like the Prophet of Truth. Call of Duty just has the generic villain, generic good guys. There's no three-dimensional character in Infinity Ward's front, and that's just a big problem. Like in Treyarch's Call of Duty games, there is a character identity. Like you had more an identity with Dimitri from World at War and Black Ops 1. You had an identity with Viktor Reznov, and you had an identity with Mason. You had an identity with Hudson. Like you had an identity with all these guys. Whereas Infinity Ward, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to count Sledgehammer Games because they wanted to play it safe. Then most likely we'll try something new next year, hopefully. They just did the same thing, like repeat, 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 and like it's become a habit of them. But now it's like, okay, let's steal stuff from genres that that are way more better than us and have a big complex universe. And there's going to be a zombie mode to the game, and I'm like, really? You're going to take a page out of Treyarch's book? Like that's Treyarch's thing, not your thing in Infinity War. Like that's not really your thing in my view. And then you're going to be on this ship called the Retribution. In between missions, you get to go on the ship. You can start the main campaign missions, secondary quests to grant new items and story details, and launch raids on hostile ships. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm glad you're trying something different with Call of Duty, but at the same time, now I'm getting the feeling you're just taking ideas from Halo and Mass Effect, which were way better. And you have repeatedly said, we're not really borrowing elements from sci-fi. We're borrowing it from war stories and like Saving Private Ryan and Black Hawk Down. I don't know why I keep saying Black Hawk Dawn. Like, that's not the name of the movie. Black Hawk Down. So, yeah. And yet, it's like, buy Modern Warfare! Buy that game! The remastered edition. That's the main focus here. That's the meat and potatoes of this. So that's pretty much what I'm getting. Like they're trying to lie to our faces, and we'll just blindly accept it because oh well, they have Modern Warfare Remastered Edition, and that could work if they had not said what I think they said, which they said, oh, you see, you need to buy Infinite Warfare, the Legacy Digital Deluxe or Legacy Pro Edition to get the remastered edition of Modern Warfare, which is basically, to me, the biggest middle finger you could possibly give to your fans, because they have clamored for a remastered of the glory days, the golden days of Call of Duty, but by this time it's over. Like, when I heard it was a Modern Warfare remastered was happening, I was like, okay, I get that, like I get you want to capture some nostalgia, but this is what happens when everything's really hot and everything's on fire and everyone wants to go ahead and run with it. Like you run with this momentum you have, and then like now it's just like, oh, it's a Call of Duty game. Are they doing anything different? No? Oh, okay. Like Treyarch has tried to change things up a bit. Like they did, like they have done recycled concepts that have been done a million times, but they always add a special twist to it with the horrible virus of Nova 6. They added identifiable characters and characters you could hate and characters you can love and cry with. I certainly almost did when they killed off Dimitri and killed off Reznov. But moving on from that, from Treyarch's Superior Games, and Advanced Warfare, well, like I said, I'm not judging Sledgehammer games because they probably were trying to play it safe, and, well, the only memorable thing about that game was, well, Kevin Spacey, aka Ironwoods, or in this case, Underwood, because that's pretty much who Kevin Spacey played as in that game. Uh-huh. So, like, I don't know how this game's gonna work. They keep saying we're not trying to do sci-fi, yet they're saying, oh, we want space battles to be the main key focus of this game, like space combat. We're gonna have ships. We're gonna have ships in the sky firing at each other. And they said they contacted and spoke with several military experts. And I'm thinking, but we don't have that technology. So there's no point in grounding it in realism. Just embrace the madness, pretty much at this point. Like, on Earth, you can make something realistic, maybe. But now, in space, there's no established level there. There's no establishment there. So you can do whatever you want. Go with anything you want. But no, you're just trying to make this huge lie of, oh, we're being grounded in realism, even though we kind of sacrificed that with Modern Warfare 2, and that was at one point a big game, and now it's on this huge decline since then with Modern Warfare 3, and then Black Ops tried to do the best they did. Like, they did great, but then Black Ops was starting to, like, then you start hearing people, like, say, well, Black Ops is actually better than Infinity Ward's product. Like, Treyarch does better than Infinity Ward. That, like, the developing studio that made Call of Duty, like, I get Call of Duty's creators left and a lot of their developers left, and now it's just a hollow shell of its former self. That's a huge noticeable thing about it. But all this stuff they're doing for Infinite Warfare, which to me is just like you're now ripping off of Halo and Mass Effect with elements and also taking Treyarch stuff. I'm like, I get you own Treyarch, but you're still taking their stuff, their staples, and putting it into this game because at this point this comes across as desperation. So I could be horribly wrong about all this. I could be wrong. It could be a great game, but I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to get it because I stopped playing Call of Duty after what happened with Ghost. Like, I did not forgive them for what they did with Ghost. Like, oh, a dog is the main staple of this game. Oh, you can interact with the fog and interact with the fishes in the water. Yeah, that's the most innovating thing we can do. And then some design director Jacob Menkoff, I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, last name, said this quote, which when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, he's fired most likely. When he said this, I want people to play our new game and say, wow, I haven't seen Call of Duty change that much since Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4. Do you not see the problem here? They just flat out admitted, yeah, we may have gotten complacent after Modern Warfare, then afterwards we just didn't care at this point. Okay. Admitting that is one thing, but then to say, oh, well, everything you saw at this point doesn't matter because we say it doesn't matter. And especially how you let Ghost hanging with Ghost 2 probably on the back burner with the cliffhanger ending you did. I'm like, granted, it was a shocking cliffhanger, but at the end of the day, like, what really evolved from Ghost? So they kind of got complacent, Infinity War did, as I believe, with Modern Warfare, and then afterwards they just did the same thing, but make it bigger. Then afterwards they thought they could do it that big, and then they went with Infinite Warfare, and now we're at this level now, and it's just a sad state Call of Duty's in overall. Like, Activision has milked the F out of this franchise. So I don't know what's going to happen with Infinite Warfare. Like I said, I could be horribly wrong about all of this. But Maybe I'm not, because Call of Duty has been on this repeated cycle. So I don't know what's going to happen. Well, one of those are my thoughts on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. This was Near Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.